Hey guys, what's up? This is isnortbooze for Betcoin Poker with another episode of Tipsy Talk. Today we have a very, very special guest. Charlie Carrel is having a busy week. It's his birthday. He just made another final table. But he found some time to hang out with us for a little bit, and I appreciate it. Welcome to the show, Charlie.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for getting in the fact that I made a final table. I played literally one hand of that final table.
Hey man, you still got that 9th place money.
Yeah, which happened to be the exact same as 10th place. But yeah, it found a table nonetheless.
Oh, it was the same as 10th place?
Yeah, it's pretty
Oh
cool.
Shit, my bad, man. I figure you got a little jump there.
Yeah, it's so good. It was fun.
Well, hey, man, either way, thanks for being with me. You know, I've been trying to get you since May, so I do appreciate you finding the time for me.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm kind of shitty at. I assume I can say shitty. I'm kind of crappy at getting back to people, but I actually have quite a bit of free time. I'm just really disorganized.
Yeah.
My bad.
No, it's all good, man. And you can say shit. You can say whatever you want on here, man. So don't worry about it. Please don't censor yourself. I want to hear everything.
Okay.
All right. Hey, just to give you a little background, man, I've been a fan of yours since like the days when you used to be on like the Grips videos and the streams, man. So like I was a big fan of your online play. Then I remember one day, like I heard that you hit that 180K score at the EPT Malta. I think it was like one of your first big like live scores. And I was like, hey, I know that guy. You know, good for him. Then like a month later, you win, $1 million in the 25K. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's got a little bit of a future ahead of him. Had no idea you were just getting started, man. How much have you won in live winnings now?
I don't know. I could check it. It's somewhere between 5 and 7 million, I assume.
Yeah, you've had a pretty good career considering you've only been playing live a couple years now. Maybe like 3 years, yeah?
It's gone swimmingly.
And like I said, this most recent score, your final table at the 111, what is it? That was a one-drop event, yeah?
The one drop.
At the WSOPE Europe. You want to talk a little bit about that score?
Yeah, sure. I hadn't played live since... at least live tournaments since Vegas, I think, and Barcelona. And I thought I would have been quite a bit rusty, and for sure my poker play was. But luckily, there's a large part of my poker play that isn't like theory based, and it's more like the live reads and exploitative stuff. And I think I ran super well in who was on my table. So like they were just like a bunch of the German guys who usually, if you sit down, you'd be like, no. The Germans, but they happen to have just like 6 live tails, so like I ran really well in who I was bumping into along the whole way until maybe like the final day. I ended up on the end of day 2 with a huge chip lead and maybe not the end of day 2, the end of day 1 with a huge chip lead, and then for most of day 2 as well. And then fatigue, actually, I mentioned this in an interview quite quickly after this. Fatigue fucked me super hard because I've been going to bed at like 10 p.m. just like camping with my girlfriend out in Wales and just like getting up being all healthy and feeling good about myself, and then had to be dropped into playing until 3 a.m. every day. I just felt like death for the last like 3 or 4 hours. So I think I kind of punted quite a lot of equity there, like a good few hundred K's worth of equity, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's as long as it's funny, it's fine, right?
Hey man, you're having a good time out there. That's what's important, man. You're a young guy. You're a millionaire. I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Are you kind of only playing high rollers these days?
In terms of tournaments, yeah, I really miss playing main events. I was gonna stick around for the main in Roosevelt, but I had my birthday coming up and I want to spend it with my girlfriends. I've been playing a lot of private games recently, which I consider myself very fortunate to be part of that circle right now. Which is actually almost detrimental to my tournament poker, my like high stakes poker game, because first of all, I have to, when in pro games, play without really thinking. You can't take time because otherwise people won't want you in the game. Second of all, I'm not playing against anywhere near the same caliber of people. And third of all, I've just like lost the strategies that I would try and use against like the GTO people, and I've kind of not had that in the forefront of my mind like I did when I was playing the high rollers constantly. But yeah, no, still playing a lot though. Just more underground, I guess.
Those are in Europe.
Yeah, there's one coming up in, I don't know if I should say it. Yeah, I'll probably say it, in Bahamas. And I got invited to a couple in LA as well, which I might go to.
Sure.
So exciting stuff.
Yeah, excited. Man, those games are tough to get in, I hear. So good for you, man. You're not doing like the Macau or the Manila thing like that or anything.
No, I don't think I can. I don't know too much about Macau, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be my kind of place.
Gotcha. Are you playing online these days at all?
No.
No.
I really miss playing online, and if I were in the short term choosing my EV of happiness, then I would for sure be playing at least every Sunday, because I just fucking love it. Especially if you have someone next to you to just like sweat with you when you get deep and shout at the computer when some dude spews into you and wins, like that the kind of stuff that you can't do live. Just shout "fuck you, idiot!" You know, just like really get into the into the mindset of like competitive drive. But I think that the EV of money is just too low for me to warrant playing and not do other stuff in my life at the moment.
Yeah. One thing that I just have to talk about, it was just such an interesting story, if you don't mind. Back when you were doing the live stream, and some money was stolen out of your account.
Yeah.
Can you just tell that story for everyone who doesn't know it?
Yeah, sure. So I think it was my first ever, maybe my only ever streaming on Twitch experience. And it was going really well. I was having loads of fun. I was in some random hotel that I'd never been in, just like getting drunk drinking during the breaks, not telling people about it. And there was like 1K people watching or something. And at the beginning, I still don't know how it happened, but I got a friend, Evan Jarvis, the Grips guy, to set up TeamViewer and set up whatever other technology you need to use for streaming. And he went on TeamViewer and controlled my mouse and clicked it and did everything. And somehow like a code must have flashed up on the screen, so the people watching could have seen how to control my mouse from their desktop as well. So during one of the breaks, some guy called Carrel or something goes, hey guys, is it a break now? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay. And then just in front of 1,000 people with like the biggest balls I've ever seen, he just types his name, goes in, types his name, types the amount, goes for 10,000, then thinks for a second, goes, no, 1,000 safe. And I get back and he managed to do it without me even noticing. So kudos to him for doing that. I then get a bunch of people whilst I'm playing like the Sunday Six Max or something saying, hey, you know, someone just like stole money from you, right? I was like, wait, huh? What? What are you talking about? Ignored it. And then like 3 other people said, yo, this is what just happened. I then get a phone call whilst so I'm like 12 tabling or something at this point. And there's like a bunch on the screen and a bunch on another screen. And I'm on a final table of like the phase 2 or something dumb. And it's like getting pretty short-handed. And then I get a phone call from PokerStars. The PokerStars just like rinsing me, just like really hammering into me. Just like, you need to be safer with this kind of stuff. Can you prove that you're you? I was like, okay. They asked me for a bunch of things, including my phone number, which I then have to say in front of like 1,000 people. I mean, like, I could have turned off the mic, but I thought it would be funnier if I didn't. Just being like, yo, here's my phone number, here's like my mum's maiden name or whatever it is, and yeah, I promise on me, and just have to like promise them that I'm not ever going to use TeamViewer again, which is obviously a lie. But the person on the other end didn't understand that TeamViewer wasn't actually the reason that I got fucked. It was the mixture of the two things. But yeah, so the guy got reported, and obviously the money got given back like very quickly. And I mean, it was one of the ballsiest, but one of the dumbest heists I've ever seen. So
yeah, would you have would you have even noticed though had people not mentioned it to you?
Oh, 0% chance. I never know how much my PokerStars balance. He could have taken 10. I'd be like, yeah.
And they asked you for your phone number that they just called you on. You had to verify your number that they like had just called you on.
Yeah, I don't really know why. It was so long ago, I can't remember. But I remember reading out my phone number in front of like 1 point something K people, and just being like, "Okay, guys, if you prank call me, I'm gonna be so tilted." Fuck out with that idea before you even think it.
Right. So back to your online days, man. I mean, it was what, like a $15 deposit you started with?
That's on, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, you know, how you built up your bankroll from that?
Yeah, sure. So like the first tournament I played, I think I ended up winning for like $40, which was like a $1 turbo or something. Probably playing like shit because I'd only ever played with friends when I was like 14. And then started to experiment with some other stuff. I played some heads up sitting goes for like $1.51s, and then finally settled with my friends on grinding the $1.59 max sitting goes. Did that for fucking ages at the same time that I was doing all of my exams. Got a bankroll of like a few $100s from that, and then bought a HUD and started playing Zoom, or just like other 6-max cash games. I don't know if you want me to continue, but
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of you know, players on Betcoin who are kind of just getting started, and you know, obviously your situation is rare, but you know, I was just hoping you could like maybe give them a little idea of how you kind of, you know, grind it up slowly. You didn't really grind up slowly though. You kind of just hit some big chunks along the way there, huh?
Yeah. So like anyone watching that is in the micro stakes, the only advice that I give unanimously, usually I can give specified advice if I know the person, but the one blanket advice that I give to people is play cash games and only play cash games at the beginning of your tournament, at the beginning of your careers. And then if you want to add in tournaments later on, maybe like 5%, 10%, 20%, 40%, 100% right at the end, and that's okay. But the reason you want to play cash games is because you want to see as many flops, turns, rivers as you can, and you want to be able to experiment with all of the different river bluffs, all of the different 3-bet, bet punts into other people, and see what works, find out what works, and get that kind of intuition. So then you can apply that to other areas of poker if you want. So that's what I did. I just played cash games, like probably 99% from the stakes of 10 NL to 1K NL. And I had a really sick summer. So I just like GG'd all of my social life. Went and lived with my grandma, who is incidentally called Gigi, and I think of it, and grinded up from, I think when I started in Jersey, I started in 25 NL, and then like 5 months later, I was on 1K NL, and it was just like the most fun. It was so fun. Like I was really fucking myself up, barely sleeping, playing 15, 16 hours a day, having just like liters of energy drink a week, and really not doing good things to my body or my mental health or my social life or anything like that. But it was the kind of focus that I needed to get good, I think. And I think that would be something else that if someone really wants to make it at poker needs to do. They need to have it in themselves to have that kind of bug bite them, and to just really motivate themselves to play every single day, and just obsess about poker. And then maybe if they get success later on in their career, then taper off and don't be obsessed as much, hopefully.
Did you do any like training sites or anything like that, or it was mostly just playing a lot of volume and figuring it out?
Yeah, I used grips, which I used up until like 50, 100 NL. I just watched this Bankroll challenge and just watched someone else that was better than me play. I didn't feel like other sites were very good for me. I felt that the clash of their thought processes with mine was really unhealthy. And if I were to do it again, I wouldn't use any other sites. I only watched like a Run It Once video like 3 or 4 times anyway, but it was really bad for me, I think. I never got any coaching, but I would recommend to people who. So it's kind of difficult to say without sounding super arrogant, but I think I was particularly talented at grinding up in the stakes and getting good at poker. I think I was really good at teaching myself, but I think a lot of people would mainly benefit from coaching. Because you can get some really cheap coaches. If you're like a 5NL player, just get like a 50NL player to coach you and pay them not that much. And I think coaching is one of the most undervalued assets out there.
Yeah, and you obviously have like a very positive attitude in general. I mean, it's inspirational, really. Do you think that oh, come on. You think I mean that has to have something to do with like your being able to, avoid tilt, stuff like that, not blow your bankroll. I mean, you never went broke, right?
I actually did go broke, and this is a story that I haven't told to anyone but my close friends. And I guess I can tell it now.
Please.
I was actually not embarrassed to tell it. I just didn't see too much EV in telling other people, because it was such a short span. So like, I was really, really careless with my money. And this was after I had the first big score of like the 1 point something million. I was just like super careless with it. I was spending loads. I was buying friends' holidays, like a group of friend holidays and stuff like that. I spent like $60K on one holiday, and I mean, like, I don't regret that at all. I was like selling action when I wasn't meant to, or I was like not selling action when I wasn't meant to. I put like a third or a quarter of my roll in the one drop in America in a turbo, which was just like fucking ridiculous. But I had reasons at the time, which looking back were definitely just like rationalizations because I wanted to punt. And yeah, I was just like spending way too much on flights because I wasn't getting good deals. I wasn't thinking through what I was spending on. And at the same time, I went on the downswing of my action and Ben's action, who I was buying as well. So I think I went from like 0 to 500K in not much, or like 0 to like 700K in not much time, and then 700K to 0 in pretty much not much time as well. And there was a time where it was in Monte Carlo, and I had probably about 30K going into it, maybe like 50K going into it. But at this point, I thought I had more because I thought some people owed me a lot of money, which turned out they'd already paid me, which is ridiculous. So I ended up putting like 20K into the 100K, and then a bunch of other side events. And then at this point, I still think I've got like 150K or something. And then at this point, I think I have around 2K to my name. Like looking back in hindsight, I can realize I had about 2K to my name. And then I play a 5K, and I won it. And it's so fucking lucky. for like 180K euros. And then after that, I went on this ridiculous heater. If you look on Hendemob, I just like every single stop I went to, I found out table with like 3 tournaments at least, and everything went well again after that. But I learned my lesson.
So what you're saying is, if anyone needs money, all you have to do is just win more.
Exactly. If you're downswinging, up the stakes, take more of yourself, and make sure that all of your money's in one specific tournament, and then try really hard in that tournament.
Just win it, man. Just all you got to do is just win it.
Sometimes you're just going to win it. People will learn that one day.
Did you kind of have any poker heroes as you were coming up in the scene, like people who were, like that you idolized?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of difficult to remember them thinking back because so many of them I don't idolize now. I think I really liked Negreanu. I still really appreciate Negreanu's existence, even if I get on with him in person, but I'd never be like close friends with him or anything. But I think the way that he handled himself at the table and made the game entertaining was something that I definitely aspired to be like. He and I definitely have some different ways of going about other things, and differences that we have, but Yeah, I think he was one of the main figures. I think that I don't know. There were so many at the time. I really like Tony G just because trolls. And I think I was a big fan of Dwan as well. It was just like the standard ones, you know, like the ones that you see on High Stakes Poker, and you're just like, oh, fuck yeah, they're good characters, they're really cool people, and I want to be like them.
Yeah, I was a big Dwan guy myself. My kid, I have a son. His middle name is Dwan.
That's so good.
Yeah, I had to wait till my wife was like on drugs in the giving birth area to convince her for that one, man.
Sometimes you got to sedate them into giving you what they want.
What about, is there anyone, I mean, you may not want to answer this, but is there anyone, just because you're such a positive guy, like you have such an upbeat attitude, is there anyone like you just hate?
Yeah, I can give out a bang bang. So like, hate's probably the wrong words. There are some people that I really don't think are like kind, and then like I harbor pretty bad feelings towards. I'm gonna think who's actually okay to shout out to. I went through a stage of really disliking, at the same time really liking Doug Polk. And I think I'm still in that, but with less dislike now, because he's kind of like fixed his life leaks a bit and stopped being a bit of a cunt. Yeah, I could say it, it's fine. I personally have something against Steve O'Dwyer, which I haven't actually said to anyone apart from other high rollers, because like, so I went through this phase, and fuck it, I'm gonna shout out bang bang, whatever you want to call it, to Steve, because fuck him. Like, I went through this phase like a year or two ago where I was super depressed. I was just like really upset. I just gone through a breakup, and I just started feeling emotions like really intensely, where in my childhood and leading up to like beginning of my poker career, I never really had emotions in the same way that other people do, and that's to do with being bullied at school, like defense mechanisms, stuff like that. And my poker game definitely got by that, and that's one of the times where I had a mini downswing. At least, I mean, I was still like, okay, it wasn't a downswing, I was still winning, but like I wasn't playing super good. And there were just like a couple of times where I just like punted off really bad, and then this one tournament, it was like a 10K. It was 2 left to the money. I was basically chip leader at 2 left to the money, and then I got some really intensely bad, upsetting messages from my ex-girlfriends, who I was still like really heartbroken about, and I just punted. Like I punted in so hard, and then I got to the table that it was like 1 away, and then we had to redraw, and I was like mid-stack, and I think there were 16 hands that I played on that bubble, 16 hands possible that I could have played, and I played all 16 of them. I was just so tilted, and I punted so hard. And one of the hands I punted was against like Steve O'Dwyer, and it wasn't even a pun, but he saw it as a pun. And he started just like really needling me. And we'd had a bit of like tension before, but I'd always try to resolve it, being like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, you grumpy fucker, shut up. But it's okay, Wayne, I'm sorry if anything bad happens. And yeah, it just made me really anxious. Like, I can definitely take a joke from people, but if they actually mean it with malintent, then often it can make me pretty anxious to be in, and it like gives me flashbacks of being bullied, which I mean, like, it's not their fault that that's happening, but it's something that does affect me quite a lot.
Right.
And I told him that. I was like, hey, Steve, I'm really depressed at the moment. Do you mind not saying stuff like that? Like, it's actually really upsetting me. And his response was, but where's the fun in poker if you can't do that? I was like, I fucking hope you're joking. I'm gonna go though. And then over the next like week, every single time he sees me and has a chance to, he like points out if I have a short stack, points out, just reminds me of the punt that I did against him, and just like continues to barrage me with fucking belligerent, facetious, ridiculous aggression. And yeah, he's probably the one person who I've heard is a very good person. So I'm not going to make any judgments about his character based on my own personal experiences, but I harbor a lot of very negative feelings towards Bang. And
understandable.
God, that actually felt really therapeutic to get out. Thanks.
Oh, good, man. I'm glad we could do this. This is like a therapy session, man.
It's brilliant.
What do you think about, obviously it's very controversial, Chris Ferguson winning Player of the Year. Do you have any opinion on that whole situation?
Yeah, I actually took a photo of him getting his award or getting his bracelet or something, and I was going to make a really long Facebook post about it, but I haven't found the time. I feel very, very strongly that people should shut the fuck up about it and be nice to him. First of all, I have heard from multiple sources of people that know a lot more than most people, and that he's probably completely innocent. I'm not going to say who said that, but just like people who would know, I think, or know a large percentage of the time at least. So like, there's no one in the actual poker world that knows whether he's done anything bad or good. So no matter what that percentage is, unless it's above like 99.5% that he's definitely done something bad, I don't think you can ever justify being that cruel to someone that the whole of the poker world has done. And it must have taken him such a long time to build up the courage to come back into the poker world, knowing that that is the reaction he's going to get. And then for people to actually do it, like, it shows a real lack of compassion, I think, and a real like mob mentality, and it makes me feel really uncomfortable seeing anyone say anything bad against him. And I've spoken to him in person, and he seems lovely. He seems kind of shy and nice, and he's just like a nice dude.
Yeah, I haven't really said my opinion on this either, because I don't like to get in arguments with people. In general, I try and avoid confrontation. But since you're coming out and you know, saying all this new stuff today, you know, I'll tell you too, man. I feel like, you know, they had so much money coming in at that time. You know, even if funds were mismanaged, it wasn't like they did anything intentional. You know, whether he knew about it or whether he didn't know about it, their intentions were to pay everyone all their money. They had so much money coming in. It was like ridiculous. When you've got millions of dollars coming in every month, you know, you're not really worried about, oh, we've got all these people to pay. You're not intentionally creating a Ponzi scheme to, you know, not pay people back. Everyone got paid back, and people say, you know, oh, well, it wasn't these guys who paid them back. But that's because the government took away their ability to pay them back. I feel like if the site had been able to keep running, then they would have paid everyone back.
Yeah, I guess I don't know the ins and outs as well as it sounds like you do. But if all of that information is true, then for sure I am very, very much on your side. Like, you can't hate someone for making a mistake. Like, there are mistakes that are worse than other things, and they happen to be in a position where they could make bigger mistakes than other human beings can.
Right.
But like, everyone fucks up, you know. Like, it's okay. It's unfortunate that some people got trodden along the way, but yeah, they're just people, man. They're just doing their best to be good people.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to intent too, and I definitely don't think, you know, he intended to steal everyone's money. I mean, there's no question about that.
Yeah, meeting him, there's like almost like there's under 0.1% chance that he would have intended, like, I am going to steal money from people right now. Sometimes there's like opportunistic stealing, or like you can rationalize things that is technically stealing, but again, I don't think either of those seem the case.
Let's talk about your switch from online poker to live poker, because a lot of people have problems with that. You know, they get bored playing live, they'll play more hands, that sort of thing. You just eased right into it, man. And I know I've read interviews with you, and you've talked about, you know, you're just like, what's your deal with live tells, man? Like, how are you so good at these? Like,
I'd like to clarify, I did not ease into live poker. It's just the tournament. I eased into the tournament scene because I've been playing quite a lot of live cash at the same time as online cash. I have memories of being so bored with live cash when I first started playing that it turned into my standard to just like limp 8-6 off from mid position. Because I was like, fuck it. This is not fun. I really don't like this. And everyone that I was playing against at like the 1-2 or 1-3 games where I first started grinding, they were just like, Oh my god, it was fucking nightmare. It was so bad. I remember getting in so many arguments, or like getting told off by so many regs in like the 1-2 and 1-3. And this is something I want to tell people about. It's like when you're playing a game where you think you're probably going to be moving up in the stakes, feel free to speak about strategy at the table. Like, I understand it can be a bit of a fuck you to the other regs at the table, and it can be uncomfortable for fish, and really try to do it in a way that isn't going to make people upset. But don't just have this like black and white rule of you can never speak strategy at the table. Like, it's just like the worst thing that could ever happen. Like, one of the reasons that I think I did so well in poker is because I never stopped speaking about strategy when I wanted to. And yeah, that was a tangent anyway. So live poker in general has been like a kind of obsession of mine up until maybe 6 or 7 months ago, maybe a bit longer. I really felt like, I still feel like the value in live poker is completely undiscovered. And I'm including myself in that, although I feel like in terms of live tells, I have progressed the furthest that anyone else has. And it's very difficult to say that without sounding really biased, but so like, obviously I know what I'm good at. I don't know what other people are good at, but I can see what other people are looking for, and they are not looking for the same things that I am. At least they're not looking at in the same way or at the same times, and they're not applying the knowledge in the same way that I would. And you can see that through the game, through where they're looking, through what they say, and lots of things like that. So for people out there who are looking to be sick pros and they're looking to play live, my first recommendation would be always look. Always, even if you're not in a hand, just look at someone. And I'm obviously not going to like give away the things that I've seen, because that would be hugely detrimental to me. But if you just look at different parts of someone's body, face, anywhere on them for long enough, like the way they bet, the way they breathe, the way their eyes look, things like that, you will find patterns if you're good at finding patterns. If you're not, then GG. And I think that there is a lot of potential for people who are good at that to really skyrocket through to the high roller scene and crush the high rollers, because there's this like pseudo intellectual way of thinking across all the high rollers that GTO is the only way to go, and that they're all like, they see themselves as like ostensible robots that are giving away nothing, whereas in actuality they're all giving away everything. And it's really funny. Like, I can literally say this on podcasts like this, and no one does anything about it, because everyone just assumes that I just have some kind of confirmation bias and that I've just ran good on all of my river decisions. And well, I've spoken to GTO people, and they're just like, yeah, well, you remember the times that it goes well, and you don't remember the times the other. And they're just like, give me all these rationalizations. But it's ironic because all of that is just a rationalization, because they don't want to face the facts that they are giving away a lot of stuff, in my opinion at least. And I have a very huge data sample to support that, and I've taught other people the similar things. And I really think it's just like the most, for want of a better word, sexy way to look at poker, when you can mix live tells and the theory and just like mix them together and watch how it just like blossoms into its own new theory. I think it's honestly astonishing, and it's like the perfect balance of science and art, and I'm extremely passionate about it, in case you haven't noticed.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, man, and I don't want you to give away anything. Well, I do want you to, but I know you're not going to. But like, you know, someone who's not a super high roller, for example, that maybe you won't have too many hands against in the future. There's a famous hand where you made a sick call on the river against Lynn Gilmartin. Can you tell us like what? I mean, you were conversing with her a little bit. I mean, what was it that got you to make that call, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. So the Lynn Gilmartin hand was, I'm not going to go through it, but it was basically just like a river decision where I had one pair on a board where there's 4 to a straight, 3 to a flush, and she shouldn't have too many bluffs at all. But generally I like to take my time in river decisions because I think that very often I can just ignore how many bluffs they're meant to have or how many value hands they're meant to have and just look at them and make a decision based on that. She made the, I think, pretty huge error of speaking to me quite a lot, which like I just don't see why she would. Like from a logical perspective, I assume it's just because she felt like she could influence me with the way that she speaks on a camera. But there were like 5 or 6 things that gave away that I felt like she was really uncomfortable. But it's sometimes pretty difficult to tell between whether someone's excited or uncomfortable. So like distinguishing that took a while. There are a couple of things that really stood out. Her smile, if you watch it, I think the video is like starting to go around Facebook again actually, but so like I'm not going to say the exact things, but if any human being I think has the capacity to recognize whether a smile is a fake smile or a real smile, but I think they really need to be paying attention. And her smile is just like it just looks like it's crumpled in on itself, whereas the rest of her body language still looks like it's trying to present itself as confident. The things that she said, shit, it's been such a long time since I watched the video. She said something along the lines of, isn't that what girls do? They trick you, or something like that. And I was like, I think that's what a bluffer might say. And then her face just like froze. It was like literally someone just taking a screenshot, and it was like,
right. That's shit. When she stopped talking. After that, like she was like, oh shit.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, I'm sure if I watched it back, I could get some more detailed analyses. But generally, when people speak, then I don't know. But a good bit of advice would be watch all the TV poker you can where people are speaking, and just like cover up the hands and mute it and try and work out whether someone is bluffing or value betting. And then try and when you're playing poker, try and get people to speak. And there are so many people that will just like not be able to help themselves because they'll feel like it's an ego threat when there's just like a kid with floppy hair going, oh, come on, you don't want to speak to me? Come on, where's the fun in that? I thought you were a poker player. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say anything that harsh, actually. Something along those lines. Yeah, that'd probably be some decent advice if people want to get into live reads.
Very cool, man. You know, you're a guy, I mean, you're a young guy, you travel around the world, you party, you play poker, you've got a super gorgeous girlfriend. What about like your day-to-day life, man? Like, what do you do for fun?
So yeah, at the moment I'm spending a lot of time with my girlfriend. She is, so I actually, when meeting her, made the transition from polyamorous, which I was before, which means like dating multiple people, but everyone's aware of it, it's all ethical, it's all nice, to being exclusive or monogamous with Hannah. And it is because she is probably, I know a lot of people say this at the beginning of the relationship, so I'm not the kind of person to say this, but she is probably the love of my life. She is the most interesting person I've ever met, the most kind person I've ever met. She, one really cool thing about her, she has this thing called DID, which otherwise known as multiple personality disorder. So it stems from abuse and stuff as a kid. So she had a really shit childhood, but it's shown itself as rarefied in something that I think is extraordinarily beautiful. And it means that day to day, I could be dating a different person. Like that, there are 7 different alter personalities that she has at the moment. And she's actually going to go on a podcast with me in a week or so and speak about it. And she's going to do a Reddit Ask Me Anything. And she's going to make some YouTube videos and some Instagram posts about it all, and try and hopefully reach out to people who have DID or multiple personality disorder, help people recognize the symptoms because it often goes really undiagnosed, and speak about it. But I'm just extremely caught up in Hannah at the moment because as you can imagine, there are a lot of variables with dating someone as complex as her, and we're trying to deal with those things. So yeah, if anyone is interested in that kind of stuff, her Instagram, she's also looking to get into modeling as well, which she's she's very humble about her looks, but she's a very good looking person. Her Instagram's Hannah Luss, Luss. So shout out to Hannah. Yeah, that's pretty much. Oh, we got a bunny as well.
Check out that Instagram, guys, because I will agree with Charlie. She is a very, very good looking young woman.
Yeah, she's beautiful. She's the most beautiful person I've ever seen in like so many ways. Yeah, we got a little bunny. Thanks for the shout out, by the way. We got a little bunny called Pumpkin, which is also on the Instagram.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's just like my favorite name for a bunny that I've ever had. Pumpkin.
Hey man, you had a birthday this week. How old are you now?
24.
24. Okay, so I mean, I don't think it's a secret. Like you did drugs. You've done some drugs, right? Are you still partying these days, or?
Yeah, still partying a bit. More the drugs that I'm taking right now are like one-on-one with Hannah, or like smaller with friends. I actually threw a party like a month or two ago, where I invited like 30 or 40 friends to a big mansion in the country that we rented for a few days, and everyone took acid, and it was great. I really enjoy those kind of parties where you get a group of really interesting and like open-minded people together, where no one's like judging anyone else and everyone's having a good time. I actually took shrooms for my birthday, and if anyone knows England, I went to Thetford Forest, and I'm probably going to go on a podcast and speak about this because and a couple of other experiences with drugs we had, because before I had been telling people, fucking take hallucinogenics all you want, it's the laugh. But having a couple of like mildly, or not even mildly, just like traumatic experiences with psychedelics, which I'm, although it sounds counterintuitive, extremely grateful that it happens. Like they were really traumatic, but I've learned so much from them and taken so much away from them. But because they were traumatic, I would not wish that upon other people. I now have taken to adding precautions to, if I say, hey, you should take hallucinogenic drugs. But I do think that anyone, if your instant reaction to hearing this is, oh, drugs, bleh, then you probably just have been brainwashed by a society that has told you what is good for you and what isn't. And you probably drink alcohol or know people that drink alcohol, and that is way worse. But that being said, there are some definitely bad things that can come from taking psychedelic drugs. And actually, on this occasion, on my birthday, I was like, all right, just a small snippet from the paranoia that I had. We were in the forest, just like trying to find a taxi. We were getting pretty lost, and it was really dark and cold. Still having like a pretty good time, exploring and whatnot. But then behind us, this huge noise goes off, and to this, like, even if I was sober, I would not know what this noise is. And it was just like, I was at the time, because the way that paranoia works, it makes you convinced of something that isn't true. I was above 90% sure that a nuclear bomb had just been dropped, and we were about to be just like engulfed by the blast. And so it was really interesting seeing my reaction to what would happen if a nuke had got dropped. So like hold Hannah's hand tighter and just like run towards it and be kind of excited about it, which was kind of cool to find out. But yeah, I also thought I was going to die multiple times throughout the night. So yeah, had been experimenting with drugs recently, and I think that even the traumatic experiences can be good experiences if you can find the lessons to be learned from them and if you can grow from them. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
Dude, I used to take so much acid, and like when you're sober, you know you're not going to trip forever. But then you get high, and you always, you know, you're like, what if I trip forever? So it got to a point where, like, before I would take acid, I would write on my hand, you will not trip forever. And anytime I'd freak out, I'd look at my hand, I'd be like, all right, it's all good.
Sober menu, thank God. Oh, that's really funny. Yeah, I've had that a bunch of times. Thinking you're going to die, thinking you're going to trip forever, thinking that it's actually been like a week when it's only been like 3 hours, something like that. Yeah, shit. Shit's weird. Shit is weird. And it takes a certain person to be able to keep their shit together, I think, on acid.
Yeah.
But,
practice makes perfect.
It really does. It really does.
So, as you know, Betcoin is a Bitcoin-based site. Are you kind of a crypto guy at all?
Yeah, I am super. Hi, Han. You want to come say hi?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Is that Anna?
Yeah.
Hi, Anna.
Hello.
Yeah, I got pretty into cryptos in the summer. So I actually attempted cryptoing by myself without really any knowledge, and I just heard that you couldn't lose. Like, it was just basically you just had to invest and nothing was going to go wrong. And for anyone that knows the ins and outs, I bought 200k's worth of ETH at the price of 400 USD, which I do not think it's actually reached yet. So it's like literally like a day before the bubble burst or something, or maybe like a few days before the bubble burst.
Right.
And so I learned my lesson pretty quick. I lost like 40k on it before it got too bad, and then hired an advisor. So I'm currently working with, like, it's a friend of a friend, but it's just like the smartest, most trustworthy person I've ever heard of or met or known, and he has got me super into different ICOs, into Tezos really heavily, into EVR, about to get into Ocean with Zero, into Bitcoin a lot, and still into ETH, and there's probably a couple more that I'm not thinking of, but they're the main ones. Which ones are you into? I assume you must be if you're in Betcoin.
Sure. I mean, I'm big on Bitcoin. I got some Ether when it was at around 80, so I'm up.
That's it's low. I forgot that. I did the other way around.
Yeah. Oops. And then I've got buddies who recommend some of the ICOs and some of the little coins that might pump up for day trading stuff. Might pump up for a week and then you get out. So nothing else I'm really heavy into. Cool. other than Bitcoin and Ether, but if someone who I trust gives me a good tip, I might hang on to it for a little bit and see where it goes.
Okay, shout out to Ocean then.
Okay,
would recommend. Yeah.
Cool, man. Cool. And do you kind of see any like future as far as obviously Bitcoin, the big one, maybe deregulating currency as a whole and it not being so government based in the future?
So I guess I'm probably not the best person to speak to. Like, I have my thoughts on it, but my thoughts are just going to be about 1/100th as valid as someone else's thoughts. From what I've heard, it could definitely go both ways, and I really hope it goes to the more decentralized, scrapping the fiat currencies way to just give governments less power, but I'm not even sure if that would give governments less power, but here's hoping.
Yeah, well, exactly. Here's hoping. Oh, I saw Hannah. All right. Well, hey, dude, thank you so much for joining us, man. This has been seriously super fun, man. You can find Charlie on Twitter, at Charlie Carrel. Tell us Hannah's Instagram one more time.
It's Hannah Luss, which Hannah, HANNAHLUSS, Luss. And my Instagram, I think, is Charlie Carrel, but that might not be true. And I honestly don't care if people follow me, so that's okay.
Well, dude, thanks again, man. This has been a lot of fun, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, super fun. Thanks for talking.
Cool.
Let's see you.
Yep.